Hey everybody, I'm Ben Higgins.
Hi, this is Alana Milne from season 25 of The Bachelor.
Hey, this is Blake Moynes from season 16 of The Bachelorette.
Hey, I'm Lindsay Hamilton.
Hey, I'm Taylor Lucas.
Hey, I'm Katie Caldwell.
And you're watching The Bros Ceremony.
And you're watching The Bros Ceremony.
And you're watching Bros Ceremony.
And you're watching the Bros Ceremony.
And you're watching The Bros Ceremony.
And you're watching The Bros Ceremony.
This is The Bros Ceremony.
Your journey's about to begin.
Recapping the week that was in Bachelor Nation and previewing what's to come in the next episode with some special betting odds.
Everyone can't wait to find out what happens next week.
Here are your hosts, Michael the Hound Dog Harrison and Adam Scully.
Will you accept this rose?
Will you accept this rose?
Will you accept this rose?
The things we do for love. Hello and welcome inside episode 15 of the Bros Ceremony podcast. Adam Scully alongside Michael the Hound Dog Harrison. And Michael, I mean, I can tell I know you love that one.
I just love the thing I love the most about when you do those corny things off the top, expressions off the top, is your little head shake, little shimmy, the things we do for love. It's just the way you do, you use your contort your head there. I love it so much.
Is it almost like am I a bobblehead? Do you think
it does seem like a little bit? Yeah, just you really, like I said, you really dive into it and you really sell it, and I appreciate that about you, Adam.
I appreciate you, Michael. Well, thanks again to Ben Higgins for joining us on last week's edition of the Bros Ceremony podcast. And speaking of big guests, Serena Pitt. Yes, she was in the final four of Matt James' season of The Bachelor. She is going to join us here, Hound Dog, on the Bros Ceremony podcast momentarily. Before we get to that interview, though, on last week's show, Fantasy Suites. Always a big week in Bachelor Nation, as Ben told us. Probably the biggest week of the season. You get into your comfies, you can sort of be real people. There's no cameras around. You can sort of do your own thing. But before the Fantasy Suites actually happened, Matt had a very important conversation to have with his father.
I actually really felt that it was strong. Like, to me, watching that, obviously it was part of you, and I saw a lot of people online saying this. They thought it was a very exploitive of the show to sort of have that conversation and everything. But to me, I actually thought like they actually got somewhere with their relationship, and I actually felt, to me, like one of the more actually real conversations that was really good in the show. I was glued to it. I thought it was gripping. That like I was obviously hopeful that they'd be able to talk through whatever things that hurt Matt during his childhood and stuff. I actually thought it was a really, really, to me, one of the realest scenes in the history of the show, really. But I can understand as well the point of view that people were saying that it felt like it was very exploitive.
You know what? I found the same thing too. I was glued to it. I had people texting me saying, oh, this is so forced. I'm like, no, this is like, people have been critical of Matt because they haven't really shown much of his personality throughout this season, because there's been so much else going on with, bullying and people being mean to each other, et cetera, et cetera. But like, this is, not to use a Bachelor phrase, but he was vulnerable here. Like, this is your father, and you want to have a chat with him about what's going to happen for the rest of your life. And obviously his father had made mistakes and Matt wants to learn from them. So, kudos to Matt and the Bachelor franchise for bringing Matt's father on, because throughout this, we hadn't seen him at all in any of the previews. It was only just his mother. And
here's the thing with that as well, is that you could say, obviously, and again, you could absolutely say it was exploitive. However, it's probably a conversation Matt himself wanted to have, and he probably knew if the cameras weren't there and if he just went back to regular life after the show, that probably never would have actually happened, that conversation, because I can understand how difficult it would be for him to bring that up. So it maybe, perhaps in my mind, he actually liked the fact that with the cameras on, the pressure being, then actually would have been a real conversation. I think that he probably really, really cherished it.
Well said, man. It was great to see him hug at the end of it, sort of to make up, and all the best to Matt James and his father here as we move forward. And speaking of moving forward, Matt James did go forward with the fantasy suite dates. Try that again, Skulls. Rachel and Michelle making it on. Bree sent home. But one of the things that I know you're very fond of and like to watch is, the morning after. Because this is the first time, as we mentioned off the top of the show, that they're spending time without cameras. And I know you have some thoughts about the morning after, if you will.
Well, first of all, I always love the before the morning after, the lights going out, the visuals of the lights thing going out is really, really funny to me. One of the funnier moments, I think I'm pretty sure it was with Rachel. The what do you call it? The symbolism
Nice.
of the fireworks going off when it's like, oh, Matt's, the lights going out. Matt's with, I think it was with Rachel, like I said, and the fireworks, the symbolism there was absolutely outstanding, I thought. But yeah, in the morning, of course, they showed them kissing and making out and all this stuff. They've probably been awake for 2 hours already, obviously. And, that's the way the show, films everything. But my thought was, and they're making out early in the morning, you are an absolute monster. If you are making out with your significant other and you haven't used Listerine or brushed your teeth, anything like that, you definitely need to have, like Ben said, you need to have these Listerine packs because that's just disgusting. Like, nope, no chance. I would love to see that on the show. Like, let's make out. No, I need to have my Listerine. I need to brush my teeth because you're crazy if you make out. So disgusting.
If that's not product placement, I don't know what is. Listerine, we love your products. We'd love you to sponsor our show, Listerine. Some pretty funny stuff. Before we get to the interview with Serena, something that I found interesting, and I don't think they've really done this in the past. Do you remember after each fantasy suite date, they would come back and sort of debrief it together when, Rachel was obviously incredibly jealous and, she was going through a lot of stuff in her head at the time of, should I still be here sort of thing. Do you recall them doing this all the time?
I think so because I remember last season with the Bachelorette when it's amazing how I forget.
Tasha.
Zach? Yeah, no, Tasha, but was it Zach the guy she picked?
Yes.
Yeah, they had a debrief because he was a little bit rattled as well. The three guys there, I remember them sort of it was an awkward thing as well, sort of the setup. So I'm pretty sure they do that every time. But I did think it was funny. I'm pretty sure it was Rachel was as you mentioned was really upset, and then it was Bree was like. Her reaction or her words to comfort Rachel was like, yeah, I'm really upset. This really is horrible. Da da da. And all I think it was Brie. All she said was, yeah. Like I just died laughing over the fact that it was like this big moment, and then just like, yeah. It was just nothing else. It was like funny, but yeah, I could obviously understand if you really, really were into this person and you wanted to marry them. Yes. It'd be pretty damn terrible to know they're going off on a romantic night for. By the way, have you ever had a Pennsylvania massage or whatever the hell it was?
I was just going to follow up with this. Thank you for being you. I have not, and this was. I was glued to this as well. It was like they got milk going. They have oatmeal. Like Matt was going to taste some of it. We saw more of Matt's personality in this episode than we did the entire season, in my opinion. Anyway, I thought that massage date was hilarious.
Yeah, and it was definitely something where probably initially people would be, I don't know if I want to like that or whatever. Much like Serena P, when her tantric yoga date, she also was like a little bit skeptical of it at first, but it did seem like they enjoyed the whatever Pennsylvania massage or whatever the hell it's called.
Well, Rachel and Michelle, they are the final two ladies vying for Matt's heart. Bree has been sent home, but you mentioned Serena there. What a segue by you leading me on to this moment right here. We have a chance to be joined by Serena Pitt. She was in the final four. We're recording this in the GTA. She's just up the road. It was a great conversation, Michael, talking all about her season, any regrets she had, the Canadiana involved, the uniquely Canadian hometown date that she had, and of course, the wildest moment that didn't make it to air. What do you think, Michael? Should we go to the interview?
Let's do that, Adam. Bang.
Bang.
Cheers to the first group date.
And we're pleased to welcome Serena Pitt on to the Bros ceremony. Serena, welcome to the show. Good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so we're all in the GTA. This is a little GTA encounter, all of us together. So as someone who is in Toronto or the Markham area, how did you get on to The Bachelor?
I mean, I applied just like everyone else. My mom and my sister played a big role in that, kind of pushing and shoving me for a few months to send in an application, and they finally broke me down and I did it, but very happy I did so. I was definitely interested in meeting Matt more than anything. That was my main reason for applying. And yeah, so I mean, I was one of two Canadians on the show, which is pretty cool. I was happy to represent Canada.
Yeah, we had Alana on a past guest a few episodes ago. She was great as well. from your season. How do you feel your season went, and how your journey was told? Well, Atlanta was the season before. My apologies.
No. Atlanta was the season. She was the season.
What?
Yeah.
They all blend together. Sorry, I apologize. How do you feel your season with Atlanta went? Take two.
I feel like my season with Atlanta went well. I mean, it's hard because there's 37 women and every girl there, and Matt himself experiences something completely different. So there's obviously women who didn't have as positive an experience, or women that experienced heartbreak, or women, just different journeys. So there's definitely really challenging moments, and that's not to say that it was perfect and amazing every single day. I had tough days while I was there. I've had tough days since I've been back, but overall, I mean, I'm grateful that I went on the show. I think that meeting Matt and our relationship was something that I'm grateful for and I'll cherish. And we made a lot of amazing memories together. And even being able to share that experience watching it back with my family and friends has been just unique. When do you ever watch your relationship back with other people?
Yeah, I would think it would be pretty awkward at times, and just be like, cringeworthy sometimes, and it'd be pretty funny, I guess, to watch yourself back. No question. How much downtime did you have? Like, obviously you weren't with Matt all the time. Like, was there just a bunch of time you were just chilling with the ladies, and what were you doing for that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple dates a week, and if you're not on the date that day, whether it's a one-on-one or a group date, we would just spend time chilling at the house. You guys got to see it. It was beautiful. We did a lot of snacking, a lot of eating, a lot of pool time where we could get it in. We'd work out together. I'm a big napper, so anytime I could sneak in a nap, that was number one on my to-do list. Just because the days that you are on dates or rose ceremony days, stuff like that, they're really tiring, can be really draining. So was always looking forward to catching up on some sleep.
It's all about the quality shut-eye, the mid-eye nap. You love to see
100%.
that. Now, you've been off the season now for, a couple of months. Who are you still regularly in touch with?
I actually still talk to quite a few of the girls. Rachel was my roommate on the show. We've kept in touch, and I talk to Bria Michelle all the time. Ryan, who was one of the girls that came in a little bit later, we keep in touch very frequently. Chelsea, Abigail, so many of the women I was lucky to become friends with on the show have remained friends after the show.
Awesome.
And was what's like a sort of a wild or I guess maybe a funny moment or along those lines that we didn't see as viewers that happened in the house?
Oh gosh, trying to think. We used to do impressions. Chelsea was by far the best one at this. And she would impersonate different girls in the house, and she'd impersonate like Matt at rose ceremonies with his hands and licking his lips and all those funny little traits that he has. So there was a lot of really funny moments like that. They would have a late night dinner. So we would all like wait up, even if we were tired, till like 1 a.m. because if they had tater tots, that was like the fan favorite of the house. So we'd all go in and like load up our tater tots or burgers or whatever, and we'd sit down. And those are kind of some of my favorite memories, was just hanging out with the girls in the house and doing normal things like, let's have a glass of wine and sit down and have dinner together, or let's stay up and just laugh and have fun and eat junk food. And yeah, those are the moments you guys don't get to see, is just these really organic, normal friendships that are formed.
Yeah.
And you said, sorry to interrupt, Adam, you stay up, like, do you stay up till 1 a.m. and at that late, like stuff like that? Well, how early in the morning do you wake up then? Do you guys just pull all-nighter and then just like 2 hours sleep, you're back up?
It really depends on the day. If you're going on a date the next day, you might be up a little bit earlier than someone who's not. If it's a rose ceremony day, there's things that happen throughout the day and just preparation and all of that. So yeah, it really varies.
We're in conversation here with Serena Pitt, who's just on Matt James' season of The Bachelor. Now, one of the main storylines on The Bachelor this season was Queen Victoria. What were your thoughts on Queen Victoria? She was on social media, a lot of play there.
Queen Victoria is a character. I think we knew that right off the bat, and you guys saw that as well. There's a lot of people that would ask me, is she an actor? Is she a plant? Is she putting this on for the cameras? And no, that is who she is. She owns it 100%. If you meet her in person, you'll get something very similar to what you saw on screen. However, what I think I will say, and don't get me wrong, a lot of the comments she made in interviews watching it back, I do not condone or support. And I'm grateful she came to him to and apologize because they were unacceptable.
Yeah.
But she's way more dynamic and has a lot more sides to her than what you see. I mean, she had so much of the house laughing all the time. She's absolutely hilarious. One of the wittiest people I've met. So there's a lot more sides to Victoria than people got to see, is all I will say on that.
Yeah, she was definitely, like I said, definitely a character. That is for sure. We had Ben Higgins on the last episode, and I asked this of him, and I'll ask this to you as well. Do you, now you're back to regular life, do you find yourself still saying some Bachelor expressions, like, you know, your walls are down, or that you're vulnerable or something like that? Like, do you find you still can't get out of that mode a little bit?
I think the one that stuck with me most is journey. So it's, you see us say like this journey versus this process, this experience. It's the word that's kind of emphasized the most. And my person, obviously you heard me use that line, and that's another one. You know, I'm still up here, I'm looking for my person, I'm on this journey. So yeah, I can 100%. What did Ben say? Did he say yes too?
Yeah, he said some of the words were just fun, awesome words to say, and it's like, not wrong. That's why I guess they are being said on the show, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of words that kind of, I guess, like journey. It's like I like the use of that word in regards to process being a little bit more like a scientific terminology, I guess you could say. So yeah, there's ones that I've kind of adapted into my normal life as well.
Obviously on that season, you had a legendary date that you weren't particularly hugely a fan of, the tantric yoga, which just sounds awful to me. It just, we use the word tantric, seems crazy to me, but how much could someone pay you to go on another date for with tantric yoga? How much would you have to take to be able to do that again?
Oh, it's definitely lower than what you would think. I mean, look, Matt's a great looking guy. So there was a benefit there. I was very uncomfortable. Here's the differentiation. It would be a lot less to do it off camera than it would be to do it on camera in a room full of 10, 15 other people staring at me. That price would be way higher than if it were go in a room with this good looking guy and go do tantric yoga for an hour.
That's very true.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, on that note, what is your ideal perfect date?
I don't know if I really have an ideal perfect date. I actually really liked Matt in my first date. Something outdoorsy, something active if possible. I think it's really awkward just to kind of sit at a movie for a first date. Like, I want to be able to interact and talk and see you in an environment where, you know, maybe you're really comfortable, where you're not. Like, I am not comfortable horseback riding. I'd never really done it before. So that was something that Matt and I could share together, and we got to have really great conversation. And we're both activity people, outdoorsy people. So yeah, I love animals. I mean, I really liked that for a first date. I mean, I didn't walk away with Louis Vuitton shoes like Rachel did, but I still really enjoyed it.
Speaking of being outdoors on dates with and animals, that donkey that showed up on that date when you were with Matt, how funny was that moment? It just seemed like really, really good.
It was so funny because you saw it in the bloopers of the Women Tell All. Like, we were walking around trying to interact with these donkeys for so long. Like, we had food for them. We were trying to feed them. We were trying to take photos with them, and they just were having none of it. They wanted nothing to do with us. So we finally were like, okay, that's fine. Let's sit. We'll do our picnic. We'll just chat and hang out. And then the minute we started kissing, the donkeys wanted everything to do with us. So not the most ideal situation, but yeah, it was fine. I mean, I thought it was a cute moment.
You could say that the donkey made an ass out of himself.
You could say that. Yeah, it would be a missed opportunity if you didn't.
Wow, that was quite something there from Hound Dog Harrison. Okay, another date you were on, of course, was the hometown. We're all in Canada. We love the Canadian stereotype. You and Matt playing hockey, which was hilarious. What were all the Canadian things that Or what were some of the Canadian things that Matt really learned from that date, you think?
So we did the map of Canada, and I kind of just walked him through where I'm from. So I showed him Markham, and then I showed him kind of where I went to university, where some family lives across Canada. And he's actually been to Canada before. So he was familiar with a couple of the places that we were talking about, which was really cool to be able to know that I wasn't actually able to bring him to Canada and share my home with him, but he actually has been here before. We did some lingo stuff, which I'm always surprised by how many differences there are between American and Canadian lingo, like runners versus sneakers versus tennis shoes, and then bathroom versus washroom versus restroom.
Or toque.
Like toque. A was the obvious one. But yeah, so that was fun. And then we did some Canadian trivia, which people didn't get to see. But we did a bunch of different, like, name 3 celebrities that are Canadian and stuff like that. And then the food, we're both huge foodies. So that was a fun one for both of us. We really dove in. They had craft dinner, like box mac and cheese, which I didn't realize is like such a Canadian delicacy over here. And then, obviously the ice skating, which neither of us are all-star hockey players, but it was fun.
On the note of the food, that poutine did not look good at all. How disappointed were you with that? When I saw him, like, that's not poutine. That's not really poutine. This is so rattling.
I'll tell you guys a secret. I'm not like a huge poutine fan. Like, I might hit up smoked poutine if I'm getting some late night food, but it's not like my number one go-to. But even that being said, that was not good poutine. I mean, it was chili. The gravy was not like, you want like fresh gravy to melt the cheese curds. So you can see, like, I'm using my hands, so I'm like picking the fries from the bottom of the dish.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm not the biggest poutine fan either. Maybe in Montreal, I've enjoyed a couple of times, but not in Toronto. Now, obviously, this was done during COVID times where the hometown was certainly different. Let's play a scenario where we're in regular times. And if Matt were actually come to Toronto or Markham, what would your hometown date be?
I've actually thought about that because I've had family and friends kind of ask, and I would probably try to go as extreme as possible. Like, anything I've ever wanted to do in Toronto that I haven't been able to, I'd be like, let's go have dinner at the top of the CN Tower. Let's go skating at the outdoor skating rink we have. Let's go courtside at a Raptors game. Like, I want to do it all.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the courtside at the Raptors game, because in your profile for ABC, it said that you like to do that, which then, of course, is the follow-up question. How many times have you been courtside at Raptors games? That's amazing.
I've never been courtside. We did have one time for my mom's birthday last year where we did have some pretty good seats to watch the game. And then me and a friend were in Hilton Head, South Carolina, and we drove 5 hours because we could get really cheap seats to a Raptors game in Atlanta. And we ended up sneaking down from like the 400s to the 100s because there was only 2 of us. So it's worth the risk. Let's see how this goes. Worst case, someone kicks us out. So that kind of was a fun experience.
That's awesome.
I feel like that's a thing at Blue Jays games for many years. Like, that's a rite of passage, is you must get a 500 level ticket for, like, it was always fun until they got good, and then you had to sit in your assigned seat, which was terrible.
Yeah, terrible.
Yeah, I agree with that. So obviously you've been off the show for a little while now. Have you had any moments where someone recognizes you? I know we're in COVID times, so we're not exactly going out all that much, but have you had anyone say, hey Serena, I know you, I've seen you? Have you had moments like that?
Yeah, I've definitely had a few moments. When I was flying out to the Women Tell All, I had a few people at the airport. And then the first time I ever got recognized, I was leaving my house. I was running out to Shoppers. I looked like a mess. I had like a full tracksuit on. My hair was all over the place. And I had one of the girls recognize me there. And it was the first time, so I was completely thrown off. Like, I forgot that happened. And then I was at the mall with my mom the other day, and there's a few times I can kind of like hear my name, but people have been super friendly, and everyone that's come up to me has just been so nice and just said, that they followed my journey and offered support.
There's that awesome word again, journey. I love that.
Yeah, there it is.
I always ask this, and I still want an answer on this. I still don't know. I notice it all the time on the show, and if I'm not mistaken, I actually can't remember if you did or not. But whenever people leave the show and they go in the limo, no one ever wears their seatbelts. I want a good straight answer. Why does no one wear seatbelts? Seatbelt safety, people. No one does it.
I'm trying to think. Did I not wear my seatbelt? I'm pretty good on the seatbelt situation, but I mean, for us, we were just in shuttles because we were just driving around the property, right? So you're not really on any main roads with traffic lights and other cars.
Right.
So that would be my excuse if I didn't wear my seatbelt. But I think the heartbreak has people a little preoccupied.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I figured it was probably just, drive around the block or whatever, get out of camera shot, and then all right, we're good. That's how I figured that went down.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. No, a couple more before we let you go, Serena. Obviously, Bachelor in Paradise Canada has just been announced. It's going to be a thing. Have you given that any thought? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I saw that at the same time everyone else did. I had no idea that was happening. So that's really exciting. I'm excited to see where it goes and happy for Canada. I think it'll be awesome. I haven't really given much thought to it, just having been on the US version and then being under contract with the US version. So I don't really know how that would all work. But I mean, hey, if they approached me, it would definitely be something I would consider.
And how difficult when you did make the decision to leave Matt, like how obviously it would have been very, very tough. How difficult of a process was that for you to decide to leave the show?
It was beyond difficult. It was really, really hard. For many reasons, the main one being I didn't want to hurt him. And also just because I made the choice to leave the relationship doesn't mean that I didn't care about him, doesn't mean that I didn't experience, a lot of sadness losing him from my life and ending that relationship and having those what if moments and those doubts watching it back and being reminded of, how great the relationship was. So yeah, it was a really painful thing to do. Not to, I won't sugarcoat it. It was hard, but I still think just because it was hard doesn't mean it's the wrong decision.
Absolutely. As they always say, Serena, and I know it's cliche, everything happens for a reason. You did some awesome stuff on the season. We really enjoyed watching you. But before we let you go, we asked this to Ben Higgins as well. Michael here is going to apply to Bachelor in Paradise Canada. It's just signed, sealed, and delivered. We asked Ben what kind of advice he would give to Michael, and he said, bring Listerine strips. What kind of advice would you give to Michael? And he's got them there. What kind of advice would you give to Michael?
I use those so much on the show, and I had no idea what they were until I went on the show. That is amazing advice. I mean, I don't know. I've never been on Bachelor in Paradise, so I guess my advice from the show would be to overpack because I was getting worried I was going to run out of outfits.
Oh, that would have been brutal. Yeah. Then people would have been outfit trackers, like the Curb Your Enthusiasm episode, and like, oh, you wore that yesterday. I was hoping you didn't notice that,
Yeah, it would have been from Lizzie McGuire. Lizzie McGuire is an outfit repeater.
That's awesome. Well, Serena, thanks so much for your time today. Congratulations on the success you've had and all the best you're going forward. Who knows? Maybe we'll see you on Paradise, whether in America or in Canada.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. It's fun to come here.
Ladies, gentlemen, it's the final rose tonight.
Michael, it's just awesome to have Serena Pitt on the podcast with us. Canadian born, GTA, we have that bond. It's all about Team Canada. What were your thoughts from the interview?
Just before going into that interview, I was thinking, I think she's going to be like really bubbly and really fun and great as we saw her on the TV program. And she absolutely was everything and more. Like she was just a really, really great, cool girl. And it was awesome to talk with her. She was fantastic. She mentioned, and you also said you mentioned this as well, both of you weren't so crazy about poutine, which was like,
poutine
what?
Sucks.
How
Poutine sucks.
am I in the minority on that?
No, it sucks. It sucks.
Oh God, there's many things that bother me about you. Many. We could have this entire 4-hour discussion.
I think we should.
But not liking poutine, you're that's just the one that is. Sorry, I can't even talk. I'm so upset. That is your worst take ever. I think that you don't like poutine, and the fact that she didn't love it either is quite surprising.
I think at some point we should just have some sort of taste test on the podcast, of course, where we sample different poutines. And
it has to be a good one. There's definitely ones I've had where you're
I've had in Montreal, like I mentioned to Serena, I had one in Montreal that was quite good. And she mentioned Smokes Poutineery, who I think are still open. I don't know if that was a COVID thing. I don't know, but she enjoys Smokes Poutine. Again, Serena, as I mentioned in the interview, hopefully we'll see her on some sort of Paradise, whether it's with you and Bachelor in Paradise Canada or the regular Bachelor in Paradise. Awesome to have Serena on the podcast. Follow her on social media. Final four, she's on the season. We'll get to the final two remaining ladies in this season in just a little bit. But first, Michael, after we recorded that interview with Serena, some pretty important news came out in Bachelor Nation, and that is that Chris Harrison will not be hosting the upcoming season of The Bachelorette. Instead, it'll be Tayshia and Caitlin taking hosting duties. Initially, as this news, as we record this, is just breaking. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's certainly for a while it was like, are they just going to take him off after the final rose and that's it? That didn't seem like a whole lot. I do wonder if this obviously could be the first step to getting rid of him altogether. Yeah. Emmanuel Acho, former NFL player, is doing the after the final rose interview. So I'm sort of surprised that I'm assuming they've already taped that, as my guess.
They have, yes.
Maybe he wasn't overly great or something. I'm sort of surprised he's not part of the next season in some capacity. And maybe he will. Like I said, this news is just broken. There's, I'm sure, other details to come from that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it makes sense that they wouldn't have him on the show, Chris Harrison, because of his comments that he made about Rachel. And yeah, I think Tayshia and Caitlin are really, really good, and they'll be good hosts. And I do believe this is probably, realistically, might be basically the beginning of the end for him on the Bachelor series.
This continues to be a developing story, and we will update all of our hundreds of thousands of viewers on the situation as it continues to develop. Now, Michael, I mentioned two ladies left vying for Matt's heart. Vying or Vying? Vying. It's vying. Yeah, vying. Yeah, it's vying. Yeah, it's vying. It's vying. I don't know why I thought Vying. We have Rachel and we have Brie. It all gets going 8 p.m.
Rachel and Michelle.
Strike two there for Skulls.
Is that some sort of like by accident mistake that is that some sort of spoiler that
No. You know me. I would never spoil anything for you.
Because there's other seasons where, the person who wasn't in the final two ended up being the winner and so on and so forth. So I thought that might have been a little Freudian slip there.
No, I wouldn't do that to you. Anyway, Rachel and Michelle, it all gets going underway tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, City TV, ABC, wherever you're watching. Before we discuss them a little bit before our show ends today, our Bachelor pool. This is something that we've been doing throughout the season. We've both had, I got to tell you, some great success in this pool. One of us is closer to last place than the other, and I understand you have a bit of an update for us.
Yeah, so 55 players in this pool. I've moved up to 38.
Oh,
I mean, not great, but not so bad. You're 49th. You're pretty much, I think, glued to 49th. But hey, you are steadily improving. I think at one point you were 52nd. So
yeah,
moving on up. Maybe if the season went 100 episodes, perhaps you would be able to catch all the way up to win. But suffice to say, we're not going to be winning this pool. That's for sure.
Did we ever decide what the stakes were going to be between us for this?
I think it was a bunch of steaks, perhaps, that, from, delicious steaks. No question about that. Because in our preview for the season, I'm almost certain you did pick Rachel. Did you not? As one of your top two people. I know I picked Abigail and Maggie. I'm pretty sure you picked Rachel. So I guess I should be buying you a bunch of steaks if Rachel goes on to win this.
I think we should probably make it a wash if Rachel does go on to get the final rose and you win the Bachelor pool. I think it should be a wash. What do you think?
You know what? Good, because I'm far too lazy to be going shopping or anything like that, even if it's online. I was thinking about that the other day. There's a few things in my condo that I could actually update, some lights that have been burnt out and stuff like that. It's been like 2 years since I've done it. It would be done in 2 seconds on Amazon, I'm sure, but I'm like, until they're all out, I'm fine. So yeah, shopping, pretty lazy when it comes to that.
Well, I remember this, we're really going off track here. There was a mystery light that went on a couple weeks or a couple months ago now.
That was insane. Yeah, the light had been out for 3 years. And I was talking to my buddies, Spiros and Costa, those my buddies from back home in Empire who are loyal watchers of the program, I must say, and thank you for them for that. And yeah, I was just talking to them on my couch. All of a sudden, the one that's been out for 3 years, the light, I haven't fixed it, started to come back on. I was like, what is going on? I was freaking out. My mind was blown. And they're like, what's the big deal? The light's going on. The light was out for 3 years. And now it's magically coming back on. I was, as you could tell, I was extremely rattled. It was so funny. It was like, so what I'm saying, long story short, I think there's ghosts in this condo.
Some would say you were flabbergasted. But before we sign off here, I must point out one thing that we had some great play on social media, and that is the mugs that your friend made. And you've been sipping it throughout this episode. People are requesting a bro ceremony shop. So for these mugs, other apparel, t-shirts, hats, bandanas, wristbands, full body, everything. So if you, the viewer, want to help us with this shop, if you want to sponsor the whole thing, please reach out to us at Bro Ceremony on Twitter or Instagram. Our DMs are open, I think. Always open. Reach out to us and we can get a shop going.
Because I did mention it to my friend Melanie, who made the mug. I'm like, hey, like you said, there's people who are requesting these mugs and they're absolutely amazing. And I'm like, yeah, because kind of half jokingly, yeah, we should go into business. And, and she's like, well, yeah, but like, if it happens, like, basically, like, you're gonna have to like pony up some money. I'm like, obviously, if we're going into business, obviously, I'm not just expecting all this free merchandise
for free. No, it's free.
Like,
yeah.
So that was a funny conversation. But yeah, you could say I'm very much this, Adam. Oh, you can't see it very well, can you?
No, you are vulnerable.
Very vulnerable, as Tasha would say.
You are vulnerable. And speaking of vulnerable, were you vulnerable in your latest edition of the H-Dog pod?
Yeah, good segue. I had my buddy Peter Panay on that, and it was a really good conversation. He's a big Cowboy guy, so we were talking about how Dak Prescott got signed by Dallas. A lot of fans hate that contract. He's a big Habs fan, and I gave a suggestion for my next coach for Montreal that I desperately would want. Patrick Waugh, I think, would be amazing as a coach for Montreal. But anyway, the conversation was so good. It was so flowing. There was segue after segue that was just absolutely outstanding, like this episode we had today. And the beats were absolutely perfect. It was almost like we planned it, but we didn't. And it was really a fun interview with him. He was great. And episode 58 of the H-Dog pod. And I also gave a little shout out to a great colleague of ours who passed away recently, which was just awful news. Chris Schultz, gone way too soon. Just the absolute greatest guy ever. Gone way too soon at 61. He was a gentle giant. I think he was like 6'7" or something like that. Just the nicest man ever. So I did a little tribute for him as well.
Good for you there. The episode 58, the Chris Letang edition of the H-Dog pod is available on iTunes or anywhere you can find your favorite podcast. Well, Michael, this has been fun. 15 episodes in the books now of the Bro Ceremony podcast. We've had some great guests, including former Bachelor Ben Higgins on, to Serena Pitt. Thank you so much for joining us again on this week's edition. On next week's show, episode 16, we'll have a full recap. Who is going to win over Matt's heart? Is Matt still engaged? What's happened with Bachelor Nation? We'll have a full recap of what I'm sure is going to be quite a week with the After the Final Rose, with a new host in, with the finale. So much to discuss, Michael. As you can tell, I'm pretty excited.
And I love that you almost did it. You almost did the perfect Bachelor segue into like the most dramatic and insane finale ever. Like I thought you were really going to lean into that. You were really close, but you didn't fully go all the way in on that. But I love that every single season, the most crazy and shocking finale ever. So obviously it's going to be the same thing again.
It certainly is. Well, it all gets going underway tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. Looking forward to debriefing it all with you next week. For Michael the Hound Dog Harrison, I'm Adam Scully. We'll see you next time right here on the Bro Ceremony.